Alright, now I'm sure that many of you guys have seen this by now, but I would like to go over the BAFTA Film Award 2026 Edward Tourette's drama and the resulting online aftermath, due to some of the insane stuff that I witnessed during this drama surrounding the BAFTA Film Awards and John Davidson. The short recap, if you've been living under a rock, is that during the BAFTA 2026 Film Awards, aka the British Academy Film Awards, in the London Royal Festival Hall, the film I Swear was nominated for several awards, including Best Actor. Said film is about the life of John Davidson, who has Tourette's in his day-to-day life living with Tourette's. So naturally, as a result, he was also invited as a guest for the BAFTA Film Awards. But that's where the good part ends. John's Tourette's decided to act up during the film awards, with him having multiple outbursts during the event that initially topped with him calling Alan Cunning, who hosted the 2026 BAFTA Film Awards, the British slang for cigarette. But that would soon not matter and all fall to the wayside, as when Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, who were actors for Sinners, were on stage presenting awards, John's tics reached critical mass, and he ended up calling them the N-word. Hard R on live television.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to celebrate.
To be honest, my first thought when hearing this clip was, how was it able to get past the filters that were surely in place? As the BBC and BAFTA were able to successfully censor various other phrases, including Free Palestine, which was the most notable one. But back to John Davidson. Now, normally calling two black people the N-word on live air would be an instant career and social game ender for anyone, especially on national television, even if they themselves were black. But there was one saving, salvageable grace for John, which is that he has Tourette's. Specifically, his variant of Tourette's is called coprolalia, which causes people afflicted by it to say offensive and obscene things. You also have no control over what you say, and what you say does not reflect your inner beliefs. This means that his multiple outbursts at the film awards makes sense, as he shouted a slew of offensive things. So after all of this, surely people will be able to understand that he didn't mean to say the N-word, right? You know, since he has a medical condition that unfortunately made him say a word that he has no control over, especially with his variant of Tourette's. Surely, there's no way that people genuinely believe that the dude with Tourette's / coprolalia would purposefully blurt out a racial slur on national television to nuke his life forever just for the shits and giggles, right? It's the internet. What do you guys think? Obviously not. As a matter of fact, the exact opposite happened, and people were quick to defame him as a racist with a deep-seated hatred for black people, especially on Twitter / X. Ultimately, I'm not surprised about the ignorance and bad faith takes since it's Twitter after all, so basically just another day that ends in Y. There were several ways that people brought up their ignorance on full display for the world to see. Most of the lies revolved around Tourette's, but there was also some other insane lies spread about John in his film I Swear. Like this person, who says that John had a blackface joke in his film, which is an outright lie, as evidenced by this community note. FYI dude, you can simply not like what Tourette's made John say without having to defame him, by the way. If you simply didn't like what he said, that's fine and perfectly acceptable. I completely understand why someone wouldn't like that. However, defaming him because you don't understand how Tourette's work is not okay, let alone lying about him. The bulk of all the arguments against John and his Tourette's can be broken down into two main categories. Starting off, of course, we had the classic takes of people not understanding how Tourette's work. I don't know too much about Tourette's, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't make you say the N-word out of nowhere. MF's love playing our faces, bruh. I mean, Tourette's makes you say offensive things you don't want to say, and I'd say the N-word falls under that category. John also said a myriad of other offensive stuff during his time in the film awards, so it wasn't like he was only focusing on black people. Also, I love how when pressed on his terrible take, he lies and says that he didn't say anything disrespectful towards people with Tourette's, even though his original post implied that John just wants to say the N-word, which is disrespectful. That, and he contradicts himself by admitting to correcting himself later on. The second person says, why are people acting like Tourette's makes you say racial slurs? Because it does. Someone with Tourette's absolutely can rip a slur or just be insultive, along with various other insults. And on top of that, us black folks are just supposed to overlook this vile shit. No, you're being asked to understand that a person with Tourette's who had a tic that made him say a slur didn't say it in a racist way, and he has no ill will towards black people. You cannot like what he said, but at least understand that he had no ill intent behind it due to medical reasons out of his control. For example, if I was sitting next to someone with epilepsy and they suddenly had a seizure and accidentally hit me while seizing, I wouldn't be happy about it, but I could understand that the act wasn't malicious and not be mad at them. There's a couple more posts that all echo the same sentiment, but at this point, I think you guys get it. I think it's kind of funny about all the people who somehow think that John used this as an opportunity to get his inner thoughts about black people out. Because as we all know, Tourette's makes people yell things like, "I love minorities," and "Black Lives Matter." They seriously wanted John to not even be able to understand or comprehend the N-word at all. Guy that's so anti-racist that he doesn't even understand the concept of the N-word. Everyone likes talking about how racism is power plus privilege until a disabled janitor involuntarily offends famous black millionaires due to his Tourette's. The next main method of attack against John is that he never issued a public apology. Therefore, he's not actually sorry, but instead just racist. There's a bunch of posts all echoing a similar sentiment of, "Oh, John never apologized to Michael and Delroy. Therefore, he's racist." Well, that's all a lie, as it was revealed that John did apologize to Michael and Delroy. But as they are massive celebrity actors, and he was only a guest star at best, he had to reach out to the team of sinners to issue this apology, as it doesn't make sense for some random guy to have the personal phone numbers of massive celebrities. People predictably pushed their goalposts and asked, why didn't he issue a direct public apology? Which he did do on Facebook, but again, he's just glup shitto compared to these actors. Of course he's not going to be able to just speak to them on a whim. Alright, now that I've gotten the two main basic arguments about John and his Tourette's out of the way, let's have some fun and take a look at some of the more unhinged arguments against John and his Tourette's. Starting off with a nuclear bomb, we have someone who tries to compare having Tourette's to pedophilia. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Pedophiles insist they cannot stop abusing children. Should they not be held accountable? At what point do we say, I'm sorry you have a disorder, but this behavior is harmful to others and should not be permissible under any circumstances? Apparently having a tic from your medical condition, which makes you say offensive stuff, which can unfortunately include the N-word, is the exact same as having sex with kids. Dude, you honestly have brain cancer, no cap. On what planet are Tourette's and pedophilia even remotely the same? Obviously, having a disability that gives you a compulsion to say offensive things is infinitely less worse than fucking a child, even if it's saying the N-word to a black person. Words are way less impactful than actions, especially ones that are felonies. Easing up on the insane arguments a bit, someone says, notice how he doesn't have Tourette's when he tweets. Wow, it's almost like Tourette's is a speaking-related disorder, and not a hands-related disorder. Do you actually believe that people with stutters type out how they stutter too? Also, to top it all off, that's not even the right guy, as evidenced by this community note. It's irony that you're such a moron, as you like to say. Speaking of insane comparisons, another person, after posting about their dogshit takes on how Tourette's can't make you slur, decided to drop this banger of a post. A lot of slave owners were disabled. Yeah, I don't even know what to say at this point. Amazing things happening on the former Bluebird app. Somehow we went from Tourette's discourse to most slave owners were disabled, which he of course provides no proof of. Slaves were used for economic profit. Why would that make slave owners disabled? Also, at most, only 1% of the population has Tourette's. So what are you implying here? That Tourette's makes you want to own slaves? Do disabled people just gravitate towards wanting to own slaves? The last insane argument against John and Tourette's that I've seen is apparently if you have Tourette's and can't control what you say, you should be gagged like some sort of dog. That moment when you accidentally kink shame someone for wearing a ball gag in public, only to find out that they have Tourette's. On a more serious note though, it's absolutely wild that people would rather have disabled people bound, gagged, and isolated, rather than hear naughty no-no words. Hey man, some people also have disabilities that cause them to have seizures and physically spaz out. I think they might need straitjackets to wear in public, so that everyone knows they're some sort of disabled freak. It's very obvious that most people's perceptions of disabilities don't go much further than a sense of, oh, it's some sort of cutesy quirk. Oh, teehee, I can't focus on work for more than 5 minutes. I'm so ADHD girly coded, ew. Then these people get a harsh dose of reality of not all disabilities are sunshine and rainbows. and instantly 180 and talk about isolating these freaks from the rest of society. Keep in mind that while everyone was having Tourette's discourse and calling a disabled person racist because his tics made him say something unfortunate, around the same time people were talking about how you need to toughen up if you see a homeless person peeing in a subway. So according to Twitter/X, insane homeless person urinating in public and freaking out is A-okay, but a person with Tourette's who tics the N-word is racist and needs to be gagged while comparing Tourette's to pedophilia. Okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there for John, as other celebrities and organizations decided to chime in with the same uneducated opinions that the Twitter masses were giving out. Starting off, we got Dion Cole, who decided to make fun of John's Tourette's in a speech.
Lord, before we go, Lord, if there are any white men out here in the audience, Lord, with Tourette's, I advise you to tell them they better read the room tonight, Lord.
Yeah, you sure showed him. Threatening the disabled dude was violence. Definitely makes you look like the bigger person here. Threatening to beat up people over a disability they can't control. Haha guys, you don't get it. The joke is funny because John Davidson has been beaten up to an inch of his life because of his Tourette's before due to his tics offending 2 people. After his tics made him call a woman a slut, he has also been attacked in multiple other instances due to his Tourette's. So I guess the joke here made by Dean is, haha, if your Tourette's make you say the wrong thing, I get to beat you up. Wow, haha dude, that's so funny. I'm laughing super hard with you right now. That's like if someone told a domestic abuse victim, haha, if you test me, I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you, dumb bitch. I just think that it's crazy for a black person to imply that they would beat someone up with a disability if they didn't like what the disabled person said, when a common negative racial stereotype is that black people have anger issues and resort to violence over every disagreement. Are you trying to prove the racists right or something? Moving on though, SNL also decided to make a video about Tourette's shortly after to add in on the dog pile, which unsurprisingly also sucks.
This week at the BAFTA Awards, the crowd was shocked as several offensive words were shouted from the crowd. But as host Alan Cumming pointed out, the hateful language was unintentional. It was involuntary verbal tics from a man suffering from Tourette's syndrome.
Wait a minute, this seems okay so far. Maybe I'm just overreacting.
Hi, I'm Mel Gibson. And as I probably should have pointed out decades ago, I too suffer from Tourette's. Which explains a lot of the things I've said or yelled through the years.
Hi, I'm OG Real Housewife of New York, Jill Zarin. And you might have seen the video I posted this week where I said Bad Bunny did the worst halftime show in history. And why was it in Spanish? And where were all the white people? But what you didn't know is that I suffer from severe, long-winded, monologue-style Tourette's.
And not many people know this, but one of the most common side effects of Tourette's is cannibalism.
Immediately after the BAFTAs, I talked to the doctors and the scientists and the lawyers, and they agreed that apparently could suffer from something called the drink Tourette's.
Oh, never mind. So the main point/joke here is that people will use Tourette's as an excuse for their terrible behavior. There's just one problem with this message though. John actually has Tourette's. It is a well-documented fact at this point, especially considering the fact that there is a movie dedicated to his day-to-day life with Tourette's. And again, he specifically has coprolalia, which makes people say outlandish and outrageous things. And more importantly, the things that they do say do not reflect the thoughts, beliefs, or opinions that they actually hold. Again, it's fine if you don't like what John said, but that doesn't mean you get to defame him as racist because of his disability. Also, while there can be cases of people saying they have Tourette's to avoid accountability for what they say, that's not the case with John, whose Tourette's are well documented to the point of where he has an entire film about it. He actually doesn't have control over what he says. SNL doesn't make that distinction and lumps John in with everyone else who apparently has lied about having Tourette's based on their video. SNL, stay washed. After all the drama though, as of this moment, the situation seems to have stabilized. Obviously at this point, John has issued a public apology, as well as the one he left the Sinners team, and everyone has moved on for the most part. While I am very disappointed at some of the more atrocious takes I've seen surrounding Tourette's, especially from celebs and corporations, I am most disappointed at the host of the Film Awards,
The BBC.
for not censoring it out. They have, as I've mentioned in the beginning, already demonstrated a capability to censor out certain things, the most prominent of which was the Free Palestine message. but somehow they managed to drop the ball on the N-word of all things. While it could be a genuine mistake, I lean more to the fact that this was some sort of publicity stunt and that the BBC purposefully left it in so that they could get more eyes on the film awards from this controversy. So now John gets the privilege of being swarmed by a bunch of people who have no idea how Tourette's work and think he's some sort of racist. This event also shows the performative view many people have about disabilities, and when they encounter one that breaks your ill-fitted mold, they instantly freak out and want this person bound, gagged, and isolated from society. Even going so far as to compare Tourette's to pedophilia, joke about beating people with Tourette's, or conflating people who lie about Tourette's into the same category as someone with actual Tourette's. I just feel really bad for John. He spent his whole life struggling with Tourette's, dealing with the various challenges and insecurities surrounding it. He has also been attacked and beaten multiple times over his Tourette's. He is just some guy who works as a janitor with an unfortunate verbal disability who ultimately doesn't even have much fame, even as the main focus in I Swear. He does not have immense power and privilege compared to the wealthy celebs at the BAFTA Awards. As a matter of fact, this privileged janitor had his bike stolen while the celebs got to cozy it up in their lavish mansions. He bikes everywhere due to his fear of his tics acting up in public transit. Clearly a privileged bad guy, someone who goes out of his way to try and not inconvenience people with his Tourette's. To sum up, everyone has let John Davidson and his Tourette's down. Alright, that's all I have to say. See ya.